Hello. So, I wanted to make this video to emphasize it feels like I've filmed a few videos recently, but I feel increasingly like the words are just irrelevant, the concepts are just irrelevant. As in, this might be different if I was connecting with someone directly, maybe in physical space, but it seems there's a problem with putting out concepts into this online space, because it can be that what is heard is only the concepts. Because essentially what I'm trying to describe, of course I've said this a million times, is non-conceptual, is beyond concepts, is in the awakening reality isn't a concept. It's that of you in which concepts appear. So it can't be captured by concepts, and the awakening, the recognition itself, is completely non-conceptual. So since making these videos, even from the start, I have obviously learned and recycled or regurgitated words, phrases, descriptions that I've heard that seem to do a fair job at pointing to something or describing something, but at the end of the day, this is just stuff I've learned. These are just things I've picked up or heard. It's basically just like regurgitated language that's coming out for some reason. But of course that language appears within what I'm attempting to point to, and it can be so easy to take this and make it conceptual, or to assume that I'm talking about something tangible, or something that can be grasped by the mind. And the conceptual mind just keeps doing this. It keeps doing this for a long time. It seems it continues this momentum of trying to take conceptual reality and try and confirm it, or try and figure it out, or try and reach a conclusion. And that's not what the awakening is. I could describe it like this. So you know, when you're dreaming, you go to sleep and you dream, and you have a vivid dream, and the dream's so vivid that you think it's real, apparently, or you equate it to reality as we experience it in the waking state. You think this is your life, this is your quote-unquote real life, and so you're fully identified with the dream, you fully believe in the dream, you fully think that you're awake. and this is real, or this is your fundamental reality, until you wake up and you realise that that was my dream. All of that was happening inside my mind. All of that was me. But then you can have lucid dreaming, where you wake up, in a sense, inside the dream. So there's a recognition there in the dream world where you recognise that, wait a minute, this is a dream. All of this is happening inside me, inside my mind. All of this is me. And that can become, it can seem like that thought process has led to that recognition. But really, the recognition just happens. You just realise you're in a dream. Is it caused by anything? It's not caused by anything, it just happens. That recognition, and then the thoughts come after it. Then the narrative comes after it, saying, "Oh, this is I'm in a dream." But that recognition that happened there, just in an instant, you just recognised, wait a minute, this is all me. This is a dream. Does it change the dream? Maybe it does, but what changes is you realise it's a dream. It's all of a sudden not so heavy, all of a sudden not so serious, and all of a sudden there's a freedom there, a sense of freedom. But wait a minute, this is just a dream. This isn't actually real. There are some problems with that analogy, but I can say it's very, very similar, if not almost the same thing, when we're talking about that initial recognition. In a sense, you realise that what knows all this is you, and all of this appears within you. All of this is known by you, your mind. Very, very similar. But the point of that was that point of recognition just happens. For whatever reason, we realise that there's a recognition there of what knows all this, what's aware of all this, what is all this happening, seeming to happen within. And awakening is a version of that within the waking state. There's a recognition there that, wait a minute, what knows all of this? All of this is happening within that which knows, that knowing awareness. And that knowing awareness is me, is what I fundamentally am. And that recognition unites all of the content of the experience, all of the other people and entities which appear inside that are suddenly not separate from yourself. Are suddenly, it seems like, all united by the knowingness, the knowing awareness, in which all of it appears, which we know to be ourselves. And that occurs at a level of just recognition. Much like in the dream, the narrative, the story comes afterwards, the explanation will come afterwards, explaining what it is, what it means. But that actual recognition, the instant of realization, it isn't conceptual. It's just a recognition of something that, you know, we could never explain, because the words and the concepts appear within it. So this channel is full of words and concepts, but the words and concepts hopefully point towards that which is not conceptual. That which has no context or meaning. And you can't ever really say what that recognition is or what it means. It's just a recognition. And it comes forth as or shines through as something beyond the mind. Something in which or the mind appears, or as the aware knowingness, the background that is aware of all the activity of the mind. Anything in experience, absolutely anything, inclusive of everything, appears within this, or as this knowing awareness. Appears as what we consider ourselves to be at a fundamental level, at a universal level, let's say. And it's so easy for the mind to take that and believe it, or the mindset, the person to have an experience of that and then arrive at a conclusion that seems like realization, that seems like a shift, but really it's just a belief in the experience that we had, a belief in the reality of that experience. This experience means this confirmed this belief for me. Now I believe this, and that's my reality. But that's conceptual, that's a mind thing. And I'm not saying that can't happen after the recognition, after the awakening in the mind, but there would be a clear knowing that that was conceptual, a clear knowing that the fundamental reality, fundamental primary identity is something which can't be believed in. So it's only something that, it's not something that is an experience, and it's not something that takes place in the mind or in time. It's something that transcends all of that and encompasses all of that. It's so hard to explain what that is like. But when that recognition becomes clear, it's obvious, and then the kind of need to explain it becomes less relevant. I say less relevant because look at me trying to explain all this for this amount of time. But the point of this video is to try and convey that the awakening itself, the awakening is something that can't be explained, that can't be captured in words, that can't be described, and it's not even an experience. I could maybe, if I was to try and use language that I'd learned to describe it closely, I'd describe it as a recognition, not on a cognitive level, in the felt, experiential level. Noticing kind of feels like a remembering, realization. It's not the gaining of new knowledge. Like in that dream, you could say, oh, I have now gained the knowledge that this is a dream, whereas before I didn't know that. So this new knowledge I've got has allowed me to be aware of being inside this dream as a dream. But it's not like that. The recognition happens and then that explanation of the mind comes in to try and put it into context. The mind is a context generating machine. It's a meaning, reason generating machine. It takes reality, it creates an imprint, a reflection of it, and then applies meaning and context and order to that reflection. But the reflection itself, or the what it's reflecting, inherently has no meaning, no context, no definition, no solidity. It's like whatever's going on in the dream doesn't mean anything. Ultimately, it's just an experience. And all of the context and meaning appears within the knowing awareness that allows all that experience. Then the knowing awareness is primary to, it's fundamental to the contextualization, the concepts, and so on. If that makes any sense. And there can be a disconnect between this something that we feel. We feel something, we ask the question, what is this? What am I? You know, where was I before I was born? Where will I go when I die? Do I exist? Do I not exist? All these inquiry questions. You can feel something, that's why we're asking. There's that feeling of knowing of something. There's something just, it seems like just beyond, something right here that, and then the mind tries to grasp it, the mind tries to make sense out of it, and it's that something's not right. I'm trying to figure this out. I can't. It doesn't need to be figured out. It doesn't need to be captured or understood, and it never will. So you can just let that go completely. Just drop the concepts. Just trying to reconfirm. Even when we have an awakening, there are the experiences along the way. There's even a need there to try and reconfirm, to recapture that experience, to have it in a box, to have it in a bottle, and we can open the bottle and sip it whenever we want. Like awakening juice, just get a hit of awakening juice whenever we need it. We've got it there in case we need to become peaceful. It's not like that. It's reality all the time. And when it seems like we've lost that experience, we've lost that clarity, all that seems to be happening is it's being covered up with conceptual narratives. It's being covered up. The mind's trying to put it into order, into tangibility, and it can never fully do that. It's why this comes through when the mind is quiet, when the mind just calms down, or at least when the identification with the meaning of what the mind's saying calms down, it comes through. That's why it's so scary or uncomfortable or hard, seemingly, to sit in silence, to sit and do nothing, to sit and not think. Because really, when we're doing that, when the mind quiets down, when we do nothing, we're confronted with death, confronted with these questions, these existential questions of, I'm going to die one day, what happens after death? Why am I here? What is the meaning of life? You know, that this recognition that I talk about starts to come forth, and the mind is scary for the separate self, doesn't want that. It just attempts to keep the mind rolling and cover it up. Keep yourself busy. That restlessness, discontentment with just sitting and doing nothing is there for a reason. It's a defense mechanism of the mind, the ego, the separate self. If it's always moving, if it's always bouncing about, if it's always reflecting things and reasoning and putting things into context, then it's got something to do, something to occupy itself with and create an identity from. And that clarity of existence, that clarity of being, that knowing awareness isn't seemingly inattention. It's kind of using that attention as a conduit to direct all over the place and never actually look at itself, never actually stop and look, what is this aware, knowing being that I am, that's looking, that's hearing, that's aware of the thoughts, what knows the thoughts, what hears the sounds, what feels these sensations. What is this? What am I? And then the mind panics when it gets close to that. It's like, oh, I don't like this. This isn't, I'm getting lost, I'm gonna die. That panic, and then it ramps up. It's like, we're dying, let's do something, let's figure this out. That's kind of what it does. And it's endearing because it wants the best for this unit, this animal. It wants the best for this person. It just wants to protect itself. It just wants to be secure. It just wants to continue existing as what it thinks it is. And when that's exposed as a fiction or an illusion, it thinks it's dying, so it does its best to survive. But not knowing that what it is, what it's made of, is indestructible and never dies. Death is in time and separation. What allows that seeming illusory entity to exist is the non-separated, outside time existence, I amness. And the separate self that doesn't realise and can't realise that it's made of that's what it is. That's why I think that the radical non-dualism, the radical like direct pointing to this non-dual reality and no self can almost be like so jarring for the separate self, the ego, that it's counterproductive. Like I said, I listened to Jim Newman. I think in one of my earlier videos I listened to Jim Newman, and I wasn't ready for that style of radical non-dualism. It was really unsettling. I had to acknowledge the reality of the illusion. I couldn't just step straight out of the illusion. It wasn't a skillful way for me to inquire at that time. Because, for example, give me a minute, this is a very busy junction. Say in this dream, say you're asleep and you're dreaming, and you dream up all these entities, and you have a life, and you have a family, and you have all this stuff that you've become very attached to in this dream, let's say. And then you realise, wait a minute, this is a dream. This is all me. But if you were to view that from the point of view of the central character in that dream, how terrifying that would be, because you know you're going to lose everything, all the entities and all the characters and all the attachments and achievements and so on inside this dream are all going to disappear when you wake up in a short time. You recognise the illusory nature of them. Not so in a sense you realise you're dreaming, but then you go back into the narrative, you re-identify with the narrative, and you view that recognition from the point of view of the central character, and that is disturbing. Whereas if you fully realise that all of this appears within you, that all of the central characters, all the characters are you, and it's all just an expression of yourself, it's not so disturbing. But that in the waking reality, that process can take time. Sometimes there needs to be a gentle approach. Sometimes there needs to be a recognition and appreciation of the illusion, and how that illusion is very real in a relative sense. How you can't just sensibly radically disidentify from, and release your attachments to everything all in one go. Maybe some people do, but yeah, I just started talking shite after this bit, so that'll do for now, and I'll talk to you next time.